Yeah, fantastic. Okay, everyone, thanks for joining today's session. So the aim of today's session is to present the new mobile app feature that's recently been integrated into the CDS Google platform. As we've seen last year, digital services have taken off since the pandemic started, and the prediction that contactless transacting and interactions will continue well into 2021 and beyond. As we've seen with remote working and less people going into the office, we've really seen this area of the industry taking off, and it probably took a pandemic to do that in terms of accelerating this process and for firms to become comfortable with some of these digital technologies. The mobile app simplifies the eKYC, so the electronic know your customer checks, which is a component of the AML check, and enables a smooth journey to satisfy your anti-money laundering compliance duties. It also reduces time and resources compared to some of the traditional manual KYC checks, and we'll look at some of the differences shortly. So just to introduce myself, so my name is Jonathan Michaud, and I'm the Business Development Manager in the Partnerships and Alliances team at LexisNexis, looking after CDS and helping drive initiatives such as the mobile app. With me today to help present and demo is Andrew Weston from our training consultancy team. Andrew will shortly walk through and demo the mobile app. In today's session, I'll give a quick background into who LexisNexis are and a reminder of why the industry needs to take AML seriously, and then we'll be walking through the mobile app. And as I mentioned, we'll present some of the pain points of the current manual processes of KYC checks and document authentication and show you how the mobile app solves these current problems. As I mentioned to you at the start as well, so if you have any questions, please do jot them down, as we'll allow time for Q&A following the presentation.
Thank you, Jonathan. Firstly, I'd just like to say a huge thank you to LexisNexis for doing this presentation today and helping CDS assist our firms in remaining compliant and reducing the risk of any money laundering breaches. For those of you who don't already know who CDS are and you're not familiar with us, we are one of the leading property searches and service companies in the UK. We pride ourselves on a consultative approach and will consistently make you aware of new products and reports released to the market, keeping you at the forefront of the conveyancing process. Our focus is always on providing solutions in a timely and accurate manner, whilst providing a first-class customer service. And that tends to be why once a firm does join CDS, they very rarely leave us. I'll pass back to you now, Jonathan. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Rebecca. So I'll just quickly give you a background into LexisNexis for those of you who aren't familiar with what we do and what we do in terms of our wider solutions, just to give you a bit of context. So LexisNexis Risk Solutions are part of the wider RELX group with offices in 40 countries around the world. Currently, RELX is the 13th largest company on the London Stock Exchange, and LexisNexis are a global provider of information and analytics for professional and business customers. Just to give you an idea of the size of LexisNexis in terms of the data we hold, we're one of the largest data content providers in the world, sitting in the top 10 just behind Google and Amazon. In the UK, LexisNexis is made up of 3 divisions, being in insurance, legal, professional, and risk solutions. And our global AML screening tool containing the World Compliance Data File is actually the world's most used screening platform in the world for anti-money laundering. It contains financial crime information for politically exposed people, also known as PEPs, and sanctions, including over 60 risk categories and adverse media. It's constantly updated by a team of over 600 researchers in 56 different languages across the world. It's also used by 70% of the Fortune 500 companies and 8 of the world's top 10 banks. So if I bring it to some context in terms of the UK, we actually have the highest identity coverage of any data provider, with coverage of around 89%. The reason why we are one of the industry leaders here in the UK is that it combines data from 3 credit reference agencies, being Equifax, Experian, and Crediva. And the LexisNexis consumer database contains over 3 billion data points, which enables it to provide the highest possible pass rates in the market due to our matching algorithm in the background. As you can see on the graph on this slide, publicly available information such as the electoral roll will give you that coverage of around 55%. But as you can see, with the use of a dual bureau, by using just one bureau lifts the coverage to 84%, and the second will give you that extra coverage to give you the 89% figures you can see on the screen. The other great thing about using the mobile app for eKYC, and we'll see this, will become a little bit clearer in the walkthrough that we'll provide a little bit later, but it'll assist in safely identifying the clients that sit in that 11% coverage gap in terms of identity. And I guess when you're thinking about UK and data and some of those coverage gaps, it's mainly citizens who are, say, new to the UK, who would lack sort of that credit history or even be on the electoral roll. Or if you're dealing with citizens, I guess, from overseas who are purchasing property within the UK. So by using the mobile app, it'll help to bridge that 11% data gap. So why are KYC and AML checks important? Well, basically it's twofold. First one being that there's the human societal impact behind money laundering, which include organised crime, drug trafficking, human trafficking, modern slavery, and child labour. And as we see in the news and also some of the coverage, a lot of that money is tied into property. The second impact is that the fines are real. So one of the biggest examples in the industry is that an estate agent has received the largest ever published fine given to an estate agent for non-compliance with anti-money laundering regulations recently. So it was a fine of £215,000 for numerous breaches of AML regulations. Not only that, this year we've also seen fines handed down by the HMRC, including single branch estate agents. Therefore, this has become an area of focus, and it's the smaller firms that are just as much of a target within the industry. So I'll now attempt to cover some of the current pain points that are around the current process experience with KYC. When a firm performs a KYC check manually via photocopies of documents, does the firm truly know who they're dealing with? So images, passports, and documents can easily be spoofed, and Photoshop is so prevalent these days that it's hard to tell for a user whether or not, once that scanned document has come in, that's a legitimate document and hasn't been forged. Selfies can easily be duped. So if someone's taking a photograph of themselves, we've seen instances internationally where criminals have been able to wear rubber masks in order to take that photo in terms of proving their identity, or even just simply taking a photo of another photo is a way that criminals can get around the checks. Manually filling in the long passport number is another big pain point. So that onerous task, having to request documents, scanning and storing them, is also a big issue and just a drain on resources as well. So if I have a look at this slide here, as I mentioned, one of the main tedious issues is entering that long 44-digit passport number or the driver's license number to perform the AML check. So not only this is prone to human error, it's also prone to obviously miskeying data, including names, addresses, and date of birth when running the manual-based AML checks. So the solution, as I mentioned, to resolve these pain points is the IDU mobile app. And so why should we use the mobile app? So I'll go through some of the main advantages. It's easy. Consumers can download the app and follow the simple instructions to complete the process. It puts the onus on the firm's client to actually perform that KYC check and go through those steps. It's quick and takes away the burden for the firm to perform a KYC and reduces resource and cost in conducting KYC and AML checks. Therefore, there's no more having to obtain photocopies and selfies, and also in terms of data security, having to securely store images of documents. It's also accurate, so the selfie check is an accurate biometric check, and the document is authenticated and the selfie is matched to their document to ensure that that firm are confident that person is who they say they are. And also, as I mentioned before, the document number is automatically read from the passport or driver's license. Therefore, there's no miskeying of information when running the AML check. So by using the OCR technology within the app, it can read the long 44-digit passport number or driver's license number to run the check. It can also, as we'll see in a moment, read the NFC chip in a passport to automatically pull that information as well. The other main advantage in terms of resolving some of the human error that we have seen, it gives the client the opportunity within the app to input their own address or edit that information, and also date of birth, phone number as well. So I know that currently there have been some users who have run that manual-based AML check, and it might even fail, or it might even go through that refer process simply because there's been a miskeying in the information that's presented. So we'll see in a moment as well how the user can actually go in and edit that information themselves, so it's completely accurate. And finally, it allows the solicitor to meet their AML and KYC objectives and satisfy compliance quickly and easily. So avoids a lot of that back and forth that I mentioned before, and gives them that extra level of surety that person is who they say they are, and they're not breaching any AML regulations as well. So I'll hand over to my colleague Andrew Weston, who will go through a walkthrough of the mobile app, and then following that we'll play a short video just to see it in live action.
Well, thanks for that, Jonathan. Morning, everyone. So I'm Andy. I'll run through the next couple of slides with you all, just so you can see what the app looks like from your consumer's point of view. I'm sure you'll all agree by the end of the process, it's a really straightforward and easy to follow app. And we'll look at the next couple of slides in a bit more detail here, followed by a short demo video. So once the invitation has been generated and sent to your customer, their name will be input into the invitation by yourselves, along with their date of birth and a form of contact. So the invitation can be sent to the customer via email, or there's an option as well to send via text to a mobile device. So on the screen here, this is what the customer will receive initially. On the left, the text, on the right there, the email. And there's a bit of an introduction just confirming that this has come directly from ourselves at LexisNexis, with the business name there then appearing in brackets for the customer to make the connection. It's prompting them that they're doing a form of mobile identity check, and it will give them a link directly to their relevant download center where they can download the app. It's downloadable from both iOS and Android, and they'll also receive a unique registration code. Now you can see that in the body of the email. If the customer is receiving the invitation via text, that registration code comes through a matter of milliseconds following the introductory text. The consumer will have 7 days to activate that code. And if it does go beyond 7 days, that code will expire, and there is the option for you to be able to send a new invitation. So once they've downloaded the app via Apple or Google Play, the next screen is asking them to input details of their unique registration code that they received. This is the one that lasts for 7 days. Just below that, where you've got the submit button, it does prompt the user that using a passport does increase the chance of a success using the app. And that's just due to the additional checks that we can now do on the electronic chip data that is stored in most passports now. Once the code has been input and submitted, they'll have a summary of their details, their name as it's been input from the invitation, confirming that they're doing a proof of ID, and their information is going to be sent back to ourselves at LexisNexis. So they confirm those details are all correct. And they'll come on to the terms and conditions for using the app. And they can have a scroll through this, read through the terms, acknowledge it at the bottom, put in a tick in the box, and pressing continue. The consent notice pops up here just to notify the user that they will be taking images using the app. And that's going to be an image of a selfie of themselves and also an image of their ID documentation. So they're just acknowledging at this stage that they're happy for those to be used for this purpose. And again, agree and proceed. So that is step one of the 4-step process complete. Next is to conduct a selfie. So it gives them some clear instructions here at the beginning. They do need to be stood in a well-lit room. If they've got any glasses on, they may want to remove those just to avoid any glare. And if they're wearing a hat, as an example, maybe remove that from their head. And think of this very similar to when you go through airports and you're going through the electronic passport systems. They need to do a biometric analysis on your face. The app is doing a very kind of similar process. It's looking for structural features in that person's face to then use as an analysis against the photo that is in their ID. So it does need to be a high quality image, hence the important instructions for them to follow. Once they press continue, it will auto load their camera on selfie mode. And the user will position their head then within the frame presented on the screen. And it will prompt them to move closer, maybe move further away until they're in the correct position. And then the ring around their face will then go green and it will prompt the person to blink, as you can see there on the screen. The blink process is doing two things. First of all, it's doing our liveness verification. So touching on one of those pain points there that Jonathan mentioned earlier, to ensure that this is actually a human being and that somebody isn't just taking a photo of somebody else's photo. This is verifying that it is a human being through them blinking. It's also doing the image capture. So there's no need for them to press any buttons at this stage. Their blink captures the selfie. Once they've done that, that selfie is then being stored in the app to be used then to do the biometric analysis against their photo ID. So the next step, scan an ID document. And they've got an option here to select either passport, driving license, or national ID card. The passport, it is highlighted there as the recommended with the highest pass rate. And again, that's due to the NFC chip data, which I'll explain in a little bit more detail in a moment. There are over 4,000 global documents that we can authenticate using the app. So if it's being used internationally at all. And once they've selected their document, it will give them clear instructions then how to hold their device, just making sure that they've got all 4 corners presented within the rectangular frame. And they do need to ensure that it's on a flat surface, free from glare, etc. And the importance of getting high image quality here at this stage is in order for the app to do an authentication process then on that document. So this uses Microsoft Azure technology, and it's looking for approximately 35 features within that document to ensure that, yes, it is authentic. So things like, is that watermark visible? Is it in the correct location? Is the text of the right size and the right format for that nature document? Is it in the correct location? It detects things like, has there been any tampering with the photo or ink overlay? And all of those other structural and security features within the document, are they in the correct locations? So all of that is being analyzed as part of this scanning of the ID document. So their front camera will now load. It'll prompt them then to align and tap once they've got all 4 corners presented. And it is only the photo page of the document that we need to capture. That is outlined in the instructions on the previous screen. Once it's aligned, they tap and that will capture the image. If they are doing a passport, this is then where we can scan the NFC chip data. Now, most devices out there in the market do have the ability to read NFC chip data. There is settings within the device that do need to be enabled, but the user can then hold their device over the passport and click scan. That then performs the check and it will extract the data from the NFC chip, and the user will then see that presented to them in the app on the screen. So it conducts it within a matter of seconds to scan the data, and they'll be presented on the next screen with an image of their photo ID in high resolution, their name from the document, their date of birth, their document expiry date, and document ID number. So the purpose of us doing the NFC chip data is just to ensure that the information that is stored in the chip is the same information that is on the photo that they've taken a picture of. That all needs to correspond, and it also needs to correspond to the data that's been input into the initial invitation to your customer. Do those names match? Do the date of births match? Is everything consistent? So it's at this stage then where the selfie is being used to analyze against the photo from the document as well as from the chip to do the biometric analysis. The document has been authenticated through doing the scan using Microsoft Azure technology, and then all of that data is being used to match up to the invitation data. The final process for the customer to do is confirm their personal details, and their name will be auto-populated along with their date of birth. They do have the option at this stage where they can amend any spelling errors. So if they notice that their name has been misspelt or it's the wrong date of birth, they have the option to override. And with the address field, that's using the Royal Mail's postal code finder. So they just pop in the postcode, select find address, and that will be used then to screen the data. Once all 4 steps have been complete, they hit submit, and the final screen that the user will see then is that that is now all done. They don't get notified that they've passed or failed, or maybe they've referred. All they get is just confirmation and a thanks for completing their side of the process. So it will then prompt the user to log out. And then within the body of the PDF report that you guys will then receive, as well as the pass rate indicator that's presented at the top, along with the customer's data on the right-hand side search input, you'll have your results summary confirming which of those data sets they've matched against, along with then the identity mobile application banner. That will hopefully be in green with a tick next to it to confirm that all parts and all steps that that customer completed have passed. If there is anything wrong with the app process, that will be in red with a warning symbol next to it, indicating to you that one of those steps they may not have done correctly. You'll then have the report detail. So in the body of the report, the Identity Mobile App section will confirm that it's completed. The liveness of the individual has been verified, and then you'll have details of the document that they chose to scan. So in this instance, a passport. If the document does get authenticated, it will then extract the document ID number, and that'll be presented to the right-hand side of that green tick. The facial match is confirming that the person in the selfie is the same person that is in the photo ID. The name match is confirming that the name on the document is the same name that's in the chip, and it's the same name that has been in the invitation. And then the NFC chip data, if that has been verified, it's confirming that that all matches up to what's on the document. So that is the slides there, just for you to see the run through of what it looks like from the customer's point of view. I'm just going to hand back over to Jonathan now to run through our short demo video for you to see that in action.
Great, thanks for that, Andrew. So as you've just seen there, we did a slow and deliberate walkthrough of each screen on the app just to demonstrate some of the features there and some of the processes and steps within the app. So now I'll play a short video just to show you how quick and easy it is to perform the search via the app, and also how intuitive it is as well. So I'll start the video now. If you can't see it playing, please do let me know in the comments box, but I'll start the video now for you. Great. So that just gives you a bit of an indication of the app in action. We currently have the app with some of our large corporate customers as well, and have been using it quite successfully, just to give you an idea of how it works in a larger scale. So what we'll do a little bit of a Q&A now before I hand it back over to Rebecca to close today's session. Please feel free to ask any questions you might have, either through the chat box or jumping on the call if you can. But yeah, please feel free to ask any questions for Andrew and I.
Yeah, the best way to communicate with Jonathan and Andrew is absolutely through the chat box. So if anybody does have any questions, then now's a really good time to ask them. Everybody might stay quite quiet, at which point any questions that you do have, you can put those to your local account manager, and they have direct contact with Jonathan, so he can always ask you questions. In fact, I think we've got some questions coming through. So Portia has asked, how much does it cost? And that was something I was about to come on to at the end. And your local account manager will send you a breakdown of the different types of reports available and the costing structure. So whilst I'm not going to divulge that information now because there is too many different variants, your account manager will email you pretty much straight after this presentation and give you a breakdown of costings. We also have a question from Olivia. Can you verify proof of address ID on the app too? That's for you, Jonathan or Andrew.
I'll give you that one, Andrew.
Yeah, so it depends what exactly you're referring to there. If you're referring to an address that is on the ID, so a UK driving license as an example, where a customer's address is presented, then yes, for a driving license, the app will extract the address data and see whether or not that matches up to what the customer has input into their personal details. If there is an address discrepancy, the report will tell you that there is a discrepancy in that. So
I think Olivia, Yeah, I think Olivia's added to that question about other forms of documentation, such as marriage certificates. Andrew, can you explain, I guess, how users can provide that with the additional documents option within the app?
Yeah, just reading. Yeah, so there is the ability using the app where they can scan another document. So they can take, if you needed 2 forms of documentation, you wanted a proof of ID, and you also wanted that individual to provide you with a utility bill, as an example, or a marriage certificate, as stated there in the example. There is the capability in the app for them to do their ID and then to select another document. And they can take a photo then of the marriage certificate or the bill, as an example. The app won't be able to authenticate that document, but it will give you then the image of that as part of the report.
Great, thanks, Andrew.
Thank you, Andrew. I think that's pretty much everything for the questions. And like I said, we can get your local account managers to answer any questions that you have directly as well. So first of all, just thank you so much, guys, for doing that presentation. Every time I listen to it, it's always really, really interesting. And I suppose, you know, some of our clients are actively already using this at the minute, and over and above it just been a safer option for verifying your client's ID. It's also quicker and it's actually cheaper, because a lot of clients will get the documents in terms of passports, and then you have to return them to your client via recorded delivery, which is costing another £7 or £8 on top as well. So like I said, for those in attendance today, your local CDS account manager will be in touch after the presentation and provide you with some pricing for the various options available and provide you with some sample reports as well. As we said, we have recorded today's presentation, so we will send you a copy of the slides as well, should you want to share them with anybody else in your team. And I think that's it. Thank you very much, everybody. I am now going to stop the recording unless Jonathan or Andrew have anything further to say.
No, thanks for hosting today's session, Rebecca, and you'll look forward to working with you a little bit closer in terms of with your customers adopting this technology. But yeah, we're really excited in terms of what it can do in terms of saving time and making the process more efficient in terms of the KYC and AML check.
Absolutely. All right, then. Thank you very much, everybody.
Well, thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.